Hey, folks, it's your boy, the Boss Economist, back with another episode of Boss Economics World, your one-stop shop for exposing the economic dumpster fires lit by our so-called leaders. Today, we're diving headfirst into the latest U.S. manufacturing meltdown, courtesy of, you guessed it, Donald Trump's tariff tantrums and the government's masterclass in mismanagement. Buckle up, because this is gonna be a wild ride through the economic apocalypse, and trust me, the data is spicier than a jalapeno in a microwave. Let's cut straight to the chase, folks. The U.S. manufacturing sector just contracted for the third straight month in May 2025, with the Institute for Supply Management's, ISM, manufacturing PMI dropping to a 6-month low of 48.5. For the uninitiated, a PMI below 50 means the sector is shrinking faster than a politician's promises after Election Day. And guess what? This isn't just a blip, it's a full-blown crisis, and the fingerprints of Trump's chaotic trade policies are all over it. Now, before we get into the juicy details, let me set the stage. Manufacturing accounts for 10.2% of the U.S. economy, but don't let that fool you into thinking it's small potatoes. This sector is the backbone of jobs, innovation, and global competitiveness. When it bleeds, the whole economy catches a cold, or, in this case, a raging case of pneumonia. And who's the doctor prescribing the wrong medicine? You guessed it, our tariff-happy administration, which seems to think economic policy is a game of whack-a-mole. First up, let's debunk the biggest lie coming out of the White House, the idea that China and other trade partners are footing the bill for these tariffs. Trump's been peddling this fairy tale for years, but the ISM survey just slapped it down harder than a sumo wrestler on a seesaw. Manufacturers are screaming from the rooftops that suppliers are passing on the import duties to customers. That's you and me, folks, not Beijing. Here's the kicker, the ISM's measure of prices paid by manufacturers for inputs is still sky-high at 69.4 in May 2025. That's down slightly from 69.8 in April, but it's still a screaming red flag that costs are spiraling out of control. And who's getting hit? Everyone. Chemical products manufacturers are straight up calling tariffs a tax that gets passed on to customers, with very few absorbing any portion of the cost. Translation, your wallet's getting lighter, and Trump's narrative is getting thinner. But wait, there's more. A 2024 study by the National Bureau of Economic Research, NBR, found that U.S. consumers and businesses bore over 90% of the cost of Trump's tariffs during his first term, adding up to a whopping $40 billion annually in higher prices. Fast forward to 2025, and Trump's latest stunt, doubling tariffs on steel and aluminum imports to 50%, is set to make that number look like pocket change. Just last week, the American Iron and Steel Institute reported that steel prices have already spiked by 15% since the tariff announcement, hammering industries like construction, automotive, and machinery. So, let me get this straight, Trump's big plan to revive American industry is to jack up costs for American businesses, crush their profit margins, and make everyday goods more expensive for American consumers. Genius. Someone give this man a Nobel Prize in economics, or better yet, a one-way ticket to clown college. Now, let's talk about the supply chain nightmare that's unfolding faster than a bad Netflix sequel. The ISM survey's supplier deliveries index jumped to 56.1 in May 2025, the highest since 2022. Normally, slower deliveries mean a booming economy with too much demand. But in this case, it's a bottleneck bonanza, courtesy of, you guessed it, tariffs. Port operators are reporting a decline in cargo volumes, and the ISM's imports measure crashed to 39.9, the lowest since early 2009. That's right, folks, we're talking Great Recession level bad. Manufacturers are sounding the alarm louder than a foghorn at a silent retreat. Makers of electrical equipment, appliances, and components are saying the administration's tariffs have created supply chain disruptions rivaling that of COVID-19. Paper product manufacturers are warning of empty shelves at retailers for DIY and professional goods if the trade deal with China stays unresolved. And machinery manufacturers? They're sweating bullets over China's export restrictions on rare minerals, which are critical for everything from electric vehicles to wind turbines. Let's put this in perspective with some fresh data. According to a 2025 report by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, supply chain disruptions have already cost U.S. businesses $1.2 trillion since the start of Trump's second term, with tariffs accounting for nearly half of that hit. And here's a fun fact, the Port of Los Angeles, the nation's busiest, reported a 12% drop in container volumes in Q1 2025 compared to Q1 2024, directly tied to tariff uncertainty. Meanwhile, the Global Supply Chain Pressure Index, published by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, hit its highest level since December 2021 in May 2025. So, what's the government's response? Crickets. Instead of fixing the mess, Trump's busy playing tariff roulette, with on-again, off-again policies that have businesses sitting on their hands, as Wells Fargo economist Shannon Grain put it. And don't even get me started on the U.S. trade court drama. Last week, a court blocked most of Trump's tariffs, only for a federal appeals court to reinstate them days later. It's like watching a soap opera, except the stakes are billions of dollars and millions of jobs, not who's sleeping with who on days of our lives. Here's where things get really ugly, folks. Factories are shedding jobs faster than a dog sheds fur in summer. The ISM's manufacturing employment measure ticked up slightly to 46.8 in May 2025, but it's still deep in contraction territory. Susan Spence, the ISM Business Survey Committee chair, said it best: businesses are accelerating headcount reductions because of uncertain near to mid-term demand. Translation: nobody knows what's coming, so they're slashing jobs to survive. This isn't just a manufacturing problem, it's a recession warning. The ISM's PMI may still be above the 42.3 level that signals overall economic expansion, but let's not kid ourselves. Manufacturing is a leading indicator, and when it tanks, the rest of the economy follows. Just look at history. The manufacturing PMI dipped below 50 for 6 months before the 2008 financial crisis, and we all know how that ended. And here's a fresh stat to chew on. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that manufacturing job losses accelerated in Q1 2025, with 75,000 jobs lost, the worst quarterly decline since the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the Conference Board's leading economic index, a key recession predictor, has been declining for 8 straight months as of May 2025, signaling a 70% chance of a recession within the next year, according to Goldman Sachs. But hey, at least Trump's got a plan, right? Oh wait, his big idea is to use tariff revenue to fund tax cuts, because nothing screams economic recovery like giving billionaires a bigger yacht while the rest of us are stuck in a recession lifeboat. And let's not forget his promise to revive the industrial base, which economists have called impossible in the short term due to labor shortages and structural issues. Newsflash, Don, you can't rebuild an industrial base when your policies are choking the life out of it. The tariff chaos isn't just killing manufacturing, it's dragging down the entire economy. Take housing, for example. The Commerce Department Census Bureau reported that construction spending dropped 0.4% in April 2025, with outlays on new single-family housing projects declining 1.1%. Why? Because tariffs are jacking up the cost of steel, aluminum, and other materials, making it harder for builders to break ground. The National Association of Home Builders estimates that Trump's latest tariff hikes will add $10,000 to the cost of an average new home, pricing out millions of first-time buyers. And then there's Wall Street, which is starting to smell the recession coffee. Stocks were trading lower after the ISM data dropped, the dollar slipped against a basket of currencies, and U.S. Treasury yields rose as investors fled to safety. The S&P 500 is down 8% year-to-date as of June 2025, and the VIX, Wall Street's fear gauge, hit its highest level since the 2022 inflation scare. So, let's wrap this up, folks. The U.S. economy is teetering on the edge of a cliff, and Trump's tariff obsession is the gust of wind pushing us over. From skyrocketing costs to supply chain chaos, job losses, and a housing slump, the data paints a picture of an administration that's not just clueless, it's actively destructive. And the worst part? There's no end in sight. With tariffs flip-flopping faster than a fish on a dock and no coherent strategy to fix the mess, businesses are paralyzed, workers are suffering, and consumers are paying the price. Here's my advice to the government: stop treating the economy like a reality TV show and start listening to the data. Ditch the tariffs, invest in real industrial policy, and get serious about fixing supply chains. And to you, the viewer, whether you're a finance pro or just someone trying to make sense of this mess, keep your eyes peeled, because this economic train wreck is far from over. That's all for today, folks. If you liked this video, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell, because trust me, you'll want to be here when the next economic clown show drops. This is the Boss Economist, signing off. Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and stay boss.